Hey, what is going on YouTube? In today's video, we're going to take a look at OpenAI Chat Playground. The reason why is because I have been using ChatGPT for a while now, both 3.5 and 4. With that being said, I have been using the API more recently for different reasons. And with that being said, I wanted to cover the playground, and then we're going to go into in another video covering the uses of the API outside of the playground. So with that being said, let's get started. So for the very first step, you're going to head over to platform.openai.com. Once you do so, it'll automatically redirect to docs/overview, which is good because in here, you're going to have various information that is important to you. For instance, meet the models is a good one, as you could kind of get a highlight of the different models that you're going to have access to. So GPT 4.0, which just came out, GPT 4 Turbo, GPT 3.5, and then if you click on that, you could also get different information pointing at a different page within the documentation. And then you can scroll down. It's got some examples here, which is pretty nice, which we'll talk about once we get into the actual video and talk about assistant videos. And then over here on the left is the documentation for the playground. And this is something that you're going to reference often. So make sure you understand how to get to this page. But for the very first step, you're going to go to the top and you're going to obviously, if you do not have access, you are going to sign up. After you have signed up, depending on the page that it brought you to, I do not remember where it redirects you to. You're going to head over to platform.openai.com/playground, and that's going to redirect you to the dashboard, and most probably will kind of redirect you to GPT 4.0 model. Actually, it will not if you do not have any money on the account. So let's cover that first, because most often you're going to come here and you're going to want to use the newest model. So to do that, you're going to go ahead and go to settings over here at the top right. And then in here, you're going to go down to billing. And then within billing, you see I already just put a $5 credit in because I've been playing around with it recently. And now we're down to 341. This has only been 2 days ago. And I have about probably 50 requests. But what you're going to do, go to billing, and then you're going to click on add to credit balance. And then in here, you're going to specify the amount they would like to add with a minimum of 5. And it says between 5 and 96. Interesting. And then you're going to select your payment method. If none is here, you're going to go ahead and add that payment method here. So after adding money, it took me about, I think, 10 to 15 minutes. But you go back to the dashboard, that'll bring you to the chat. And here at the top, it took, like I said, 15 minutes for the newer models to pop up. I think I even logged out and came back in. And eventually it showed up with GPT-4, GPT-4 Turbo, and GPT 4.0. So just give it some time and eventually that will show up. So before getting into the actual chat, I just want to kind of highlight the different options that you have over here on the right side. So here you got presets. So if you had some presets here, if you save them, it'll save here. But a good thing to check out, as I pointed out in the beginning of this video, is the examples. So if you click on browse examples, you will get a number of them provided by OpenAI. And if you click on it, you'll get the actual code and the context within that. So this one is grammar correction, and as you can see, the system directions was you will be provided with statements and your task is to convert them to standard English. And then the user, this is the prompt that you are providing as an example. She went to the market. And then the response for the sample is she did not go to the market. And that's all here based on this example here, showing Python. But you get the point. That is kind of the prompt example here. And you can open that in Playground. So if we click on this, it'll just bring us right back and it'll kind of give us that context here. So going back to the dashboard, again, you got the save button, you got share preset, you got history. Another cool thing here is the code. So for example, let's say we wanted to do the same thing. Let's go back into the examples. And let's just grab one of these. But let's say we did it ourselves and we didn't grab an example. And then we go into view code. This will give us exactly that same thing. And then if you were to use this in Python, which is what we're going to cover in a different video, you can go ahead and copy this in, and now you'll have access to the OpenAI API based on the same prompt here, but within Python. So, and then over here, I haven't really messed with temperature much. This deals with randomness. I haven't really messed with these either. It deals with, you know, it's just penalizing the token based on the likelihood to repeat the same line. So I haven't really played with these, but another important thing over here is the maximum tokens, especially when you're just starting out. If you max this out and you have a large prompt, I mean, this is 4,906 tokens, and then based on the pricing here, which is another good page to check out, openai.com/API/pricing. And if we were to go to the 4.0 model, and then as you can see here, the tokens, so the input is $5 per 1 million token, or $5 or $15 per 1 million tokens for the output. So going back in here, if we had 4,096, this is based on the response, I believe. This is the maximum number of tokens to generate shared between the prompt and the completion. But with that being said, obviously 496, which I think it kind of is based around the words, so about 4,096 words. But this is a good spot to, so if you want to lower that so you don't kind of, get charged too high too quickly, this is something that you can play around with. And the last thing that I want you to check out over here, which is pretty cool, is the compare function, which I've been doing a lot lately. And I did not realize that button was even there, and I just kind of been doing it manually. But if you want to see or GPT-4 versus GPT-4 Turbo, especially when dealing with code, I did find a big difference between the two. So this is something cool to check out. That's kind of it for as far as on the right side over here. The next example, which I think is probably the most important for me right now, and I've been playing around with it a lot. I'm not even a pro at it, to be honest, but I will be soon. It is something that I am super excited about. So on the left side over here, cat we were just in, here's the assistants. So one of the assistants that I had created. So this is something that you could deal with. So if you're reaching out to the API, you could have an assistant that pretty much is pre-designated to perform a certain function or a system context, which is what we were discussing in the previous one. But in this case, the instructions that I provided for this one, which is not even too crazy. So if we open this up, you are a helpful code developer. I will simply provide a prompt with instructions on what I want, and you will deliver the code without any details, explanation, or comments, just a code snippet that I need to do my job. So oftentimes I found that every time I was reaching out to chat or even the code interpreter, I was getting more information than I needed. I didn't need any explanations. I just wanted the code at the time. But then I realized that this could actually execute the code and give us information about it, which is something that, again, I want to get more into. But here's just a simple example, which will kind of, I found amazing. So I uploaded example2.txt, and in that text file was just pretty much a CSV. I tried a CSV for some reason, and I guess it was not supported. But with that being said, I used just a text format with the CSV format inside of that pretty much. And it's just a kind of simple budget, simple spending. So I uploaded that. I simply just asked, I'm not sure why the prompt disappeared, but I simply just asked the assistant to pretty much develop a script or to read the attached document and give me the sum of each of the categories that are in this document. And I provided an example saying that there is a groceries category. There's multiple groceries categories, and I want the sum of that category. And as you can see here, it went in, started this, kind of found an error saying this code had trouble determining the file type of your upload. Let's try reading the file as a CSV instead. So it went ahead, which is kind of confusing to me because I thought I said it was not supported, so I'll have to kind of play around with that again. But it changed up its code, and it did it again. My apologies. It seems like the columns are not named correctly. Let's see first how the data frame looks. So then it kind of looks at it and gets a better understanding of the format. I see the amount field has been displaced by the description column. I will correct this, sum the amounts for each category. So as you can see here, it kind of had some troubles. And then here, got code again. And here's the final result, which was correct when looking at it. So it's pretty cool. This is just a basic example, but that's why I think assistance is important, because you go in here and you could define the context or the instructions for this particular assistant or GPT to go ahead and do for you. So every time you want a certain thing, like in another example is I went in here in assistance and I created blog generator. So in this context, I said you are a blog writer for a very famous YouTube channel. What you will write is a technical tutorial based on the transcript provided. You can use the exact transcript to include in the instructions, but you can also generate information based on what is given to provide a detailed blog post. Each of the various steps should be highlighted to separate a new step is being discussed. And then I kind of provided an example here, which I don't think I might have to play around with that, but GPT did a good job at it. And I could provide another example in the future of how this came out. And I selected the GPT 4o model, and then I kind of left everything else as a default. But that's pretty much it for the assistants. These two are just kind of examples I was playing around with. Like one of these is from GPT documentation itself. Your personal math tutor, when asked a math question, write and run the code to answer the question. But this was just me playing around with the API, creating it from the Python code, creating a assistant, and then kind of providing a prompt with it. But that's it for the assistants. I think it is going to be super useful, and I look forward to covering this more in detail in the future. But just going down the list, the last few things is fine-tuning. I haven't played around with this yet, but this could be useful as you could fine-tune the API pretty much to even get cost savings, ability to train on more examples that can fit in a prompt, and just go ahead. You can pretty much just fine tune it to your specific needs based on information that you're providing. So that's pretty cool. Another thing that I might not use, but it is pretty useful, I would think, for many companies who are processing large data sets, is the batches. In here, you could go ahead and pretty much pass through large data sets, as I said, or it says running evaluations, embedding content repositories. This is probably unlimited, but what this does is you could pretty much pass through this request, and you'll get charged less essentially, but the return or the result will take some time to complete. So that's something that's cool, but I don't think right now I'm processing anything that is that large, but maybe in the future I'll check it out to provide an example. And then right below that is your storage. These are just files that I had uploaded in the code interpreter. That's pretty much it. You go here at the top, you could upload it as well and reference it in the future. And then one of the most important tabs is the usage. So I think I started out with this video, or shortly before this video, is around $1.57, and now we're up to $1.85. But it's definitely cool, something that you could easily manage or monitor. So you can see for the first day, we got charged just a few cents. This day was a big one because I was using, this one was a big one. I was using the image model, which is something I want to cover in another video. Here I was using the GPT 4o a lot, but also it seems like I was using GPT 4 Turbo more, and same thing here, which is today. Yeah, so this is a good tab. Make sure you check out the usage tab, as that will give you the most up-to-date information in regards to billing. Again, I only threw $5 at it for now, as I'm still learning it, but $5 could easily last me a month with just a few requests here and there. I'm up to $2, and I had, I'm not sure if it shows you the total requests here, but that's going to close out today's video. In the future, as I said, we're going to get into integrating Python scripts with the API key and reaching out to the various assistants or even the chat within the Playground or the OpenAI API. But that's going to close out today's video. I hope you were able to take something away. I think this is super important to make sure that you're learning AI and everything that is involved. But that's it. So as always, never stop learning.